Welcome everyone back to the channel. It's Fury here, and I am excited about this week's review because we're going to be covering our favorite priest from House Ghost. It's all about Vivian, and she has been rocking the meta as of late. So you're not going to want to miss this because we're starting now.
I wanna be immortal, like a god in the sky. I wanna be a silk flower.
Alright, so here we have her, Vivian. Wow, she has just made quite the impression and made her mark on our current meta. Right now, she is able to just help all kinds of teams just sustain, keep clear of debuffs, remove enemy buffs, and it's just all over the place. She causes so much chaos, and it's not easy to remove without paying a price. And since her release, a lot of people were always skeptical, but now we have her. She is being used in doubles, triples. Someone even has 6, and it's just incredible. So let's dive right in, look at her abilities, and see how or why she is making such an impact. I got my notes here as well, so we can all follow along. So let's go. Starting with Meteor Shower. This one is her active skill and just allows her to do 300% of her attack to 2 random enemies. She is a priest, so it's always not going to be that much damage, but it has a 75% chance of removing 1 buff from the enemies that she targets. This is nice, and it includes Izanami shields, for example. Those are a layered buff that protects the enemy. If they are hit by Vivian here, she can just peel off both layers, and that's kind of convenient. You can take attack buffs, speed buffs, just remove those with 75% chance, and that makes this active very convenient. But it also adds Moonlight Shadow. Now this is essentially a totem that she drops. It would be for 3 rounds, and what it does is that any allies that are hit by the enemy with an active skill or a basic attack will have a 70% chance to remove 2 debuffs that are on them. Just any 2 debuffs. And this could mean Nephilim, Equilibrium Marks, any type of CC like Kratos Terrorize, or the Energy Devouring Marks from Apate, which at this point of the game in this meta is incredible to have. Now there is a limit, even though they do remove 2 debuffs from themselves. This ability per Vivian can only occur 4 times. So if you have 2 Vivians on your team and they both drop the Moonlight, they each allow for 2 debuffs to be removed from an ally 4 times per round, total of 8 times per round in this case. But that's not all. It also allows for, at the end of each round, the ally with the lowest HP to be healed for 25% of their total max HP. Now let's say that this Vivian has 10 million HP and she is the lowest, and the end of the round arrives. Her ability sees that she has the lowest. It's going to just add a good old stack of 2.5 million HP to her, and letting her use that to then reflect through her other ability, which we'll get to. But this can work for any allies on the team. Granted, it's only single target. It's just amazing for keeping the sustain going. And since our meta has just been very tanky as of late, having 1 or 2 Vivians on your team to just do these kind of smart select healing skills is incredible and an awesome asset to have. So let's move on. That was a packed active, I'm just going to be honest. Here we have Star Murmurs, and this is her buff static passive. What it does here is increase her HP by 25%, again making her tanky. Increase her control immunity by 30%, and that's just always good to have against any type of stunning shenanigans that are going out there, or Kratos trying to terrorize. And her speed by 30. Now this is interesting because it kind of allows her to keep pace with Izanami, Kratos, Uriel, for example. because her base HP is 1172. And that's just very nice for keeping up. And there are ways to buff that in her elite skill box, which we'll get to as well. But she has this healing received increased by 30%. So this just allows that passive healing, smart healing from the active, I should say, to go off, target her, and heal her just an extra 30% on top of the 2.5 million that we discussed earlier. Raphael will have a good old time healing her here. And I've seen Deerling, that Chad, just go out of this world with his amount of healing. 32 million healing, just because he keeps targeting the Vivians, especially in the late rounds of a match. It's just incredible, and we might see a match like that later on in this video. So stay tuned. But these passives are just incredible for what our meta is looking for right now. Tankiness, speed and HP, and insane amount of healing potential. But let's move on. Here we have Divination, and this is what just allows her to cause chaos in a match. This allows her to, at the end of each round, target 2 enemies, and in my instance I have them buffed, but it's 70% of a chance to reduce that enemy speed by 40 points or their energy by 35 points. Now these chances each go off separately for both of the enemies that are being targeted. I have it buffed because I think this is just great for just disrupting the enemy's plans. It kind of can be seen as negative synergy with Apate, but I think it's positive because the enemy does not get to use her active in case this targets an enemy Apate or a speedy character. And once they get hit or use their active skills, go up to 100 energy, they just wasted a round that they could have dropped in an important ability. An enemy Vivian could have dropped her totem, but no, she got reduced by your Vivian at the end of the round. This is very nice. It's very convenient and annoying when you see it go off on the battlefield against you, but when it's on your side, having this skill buffed is very nice to see go off consistently, and that's why I upgraded it to max. I just love this disruption, this kind of trolling meme type of style of strategy is something I enjoy, and when it goes off on matches when I'm watching replays, it's just interesting to see how one active being delayed flipped the match into my favor. And that's just something that you can look forward to with your Vivians if you're planning to deploy 1 or 2 together, because I have 2 Vivians and they're both set up the same. It's fun to see. So let's look at the last passive. It's going to be Starlink. And this is what allows her to do most of her damage, but it's interesting. It allows her to start the match with 1 galaxy mark that is attached to an enemy at random. And what happens is whenever she takes damage, that enemy base will take 75% of the damage Vivian takes. I have it buffed here, that's why it's showing 79, but this is how her like HP comes into play, having it high so she takes more damage. She's not really built with damage reduction, that way that she's actually losing HP to then reflect through the link to the enemy. It's up to you if you want to build it with damage reduction, but in my case, I like just having a high pool of HP, so then more, how would you say, there's more capacity for damage. Per se. But that's not all. Whenever she is tagged with any debuff, like a CC skill, a debuff, or a mark, a debuff like a damage over time mark, like a burning mark, she has a 35% chance to just send it through that link and tag the enemy she's connected with. So if Nephilim on the enemy team drops equilibrium marks on your team and Vivian here gets it, there's a 35% chance that equilibrium mark is going to go right back to the enemy team. And I've seen it where Apate's energy devouring marks also travel through the link and tag the enemy, which is kind of funny, especially if it tags someone who's just waiting to set up their active skill. In round 1, they'll use their basic, get tagged and triggered with the equilibrium mark from an Apate that was put on this Vivian, and then just watch their energy drain. Kind of fun to watch. But this just makes it more chaotic on top of her already disruptive abilities and allows her to do a whole bunch of damage. So if she's able to heal throughout the battle, load up more HP, that's more HP that she can then weaponize, send back to the enemy. Now, with this skill set and her elite skills, it's just interesting to see how much of a utility character Vivian can be. And that's why she's very popular in our meta right now, especially when running 1 or 2 on your varsity, JV, Elite League teams. People have just gone pretty crazy with her and are using her to great effect.
ちって近寄らないで。私の歌声で踊りなさい。
But let's look at some more loadouts for her. Next up is the crystal build, which will allow you to sort of build in 2 different directions with your Vivian. This one here, I wanted to showcase a speed build, which is kind of popular, and this one is sort of looking to have her deploy her totem in round 2. If you're lucky and she's not the fastest, I mean, some there is Sky in the meta now, so some characters may go faster than her. She could take enough hits and deploy it on round 1, but mainly it's for a totem round 2, bypassing Apate. So this speed on this one is 1754. I want to show you Apate speed. It's looking at 1752, and this is with energy and speed. So at max speed potentials, a speed Vivian, especially with one of her elite skills, is just able to go fast, deploy a totem round 2, start helping your team clear off debuffs, and start off with those smart heals. So this is one viable strategy to have on her. There's also the HP builds. So here I have her with the boots, and this is just going to give her some more HP boost. And Deception is just one of the fastest antiques in the game right now. So I just had it here for showcase. You can use Echoes. Power of Wind also is an interesting pick. But these are nice because it also increases the HP. Having her at a cool 7.3 million. And then the potentials, which we'll get to in a moment. The other build that's also popular for the round 1 is energy, likely with Fake Crystal. Something's going on. Okay. So the energy build, which I have with HP here, has her around an 8.2. If I had more class gear, I would load this one up. She could also get a bit tankier. But this energy build is mainly for having her deploy her totem in round 1, and then serving as a support utility character starting from round 1 throughout the match. I like Fake Crystal, and if you have it, I recommend using it on her because of that extra HP, which then allows her to weaponize her health pool to use against the enemy thanks to her Starlink. So we'll use speed potentials on this kind of build and try to have her take down enemies with her. If she gets removed early, it's more likely that she's going to nuke somebody with her, and that's kind of fun to see during matches. So we should see here shortly. So those are the 2 directions that I see more Vivians taking. The main 2. If there's any others you've seen out there, be sure to let me know in the comments. I'm kind of interested in that too. So that's what we have here. And then we have the antiques, which again, focusing on speed or focusing on energy. Here you could use your Fate Guide if you don't have a Fate Crystal, or a Fate Mirror. And this is just gonna help her drop that totem in round 1. Granted, she doesn't get reduced by Apate. Put that out there. Potentials that will always support the speed build. We want speed, and that's just going to be king on her. This healing aura for increasing the 15% of the healing amount is also paramount. And it does stack with her other base skill of always increasing healing by 30%. For the HP build, we'll just go 1 3 3 3 2. 1 3 3 1 2. And just take that extra 12% HP boost along with it, with the extra healing. And then shields is always just going to be taken in player versus player. So elite skills are kind of important to mention when it comes to Vivian, because she actually has the best quantity of elite skills to look at. Yuki was very generous with Vivian. So the one I like the most is the disruption she causes, because it increases the chance of reducing speed or energy by 10% up to 80. And this is just nice to see going off in battles, which we're playing throughout this video. And Starlink, with one level, which is very cheap, increases from 75% damage that is transmitted up to 79%. Let's go. 79% of the damage if you go the whole way, which is also a good strategy. It goes up to 83, and the chance of a debuff flowing through goes up to 40. This Star Murmur's buff passive is very nice for increasing her speed by 10 points from 30 to 40. This makes her faster than Kratos, faster than Izanami, faster than Uriel, and will just keep her with the speed build in the race versus Apate. So versus energy Apate, just say. That's quite good. And Meteor Shower, it increases her active damage up to 330, but that's a very low number anyways. What could be beneficial here is how she has a higher chance to remove a debuff from an enemy, I believe. Or maybe not. 75% chance, 70% chance. There really isn't anything here. Oh, it's the healing. That's what it is. So the lowest HP ally, which could also be her, would heal up from 25 to 30%. That's what I was missing. Very nice. I think this is the weakest one of her kit. If I were to personally recommend it, I would want more chaos. I would want more damage to the link. And if you wanted the speed build, then going Star Murmurs would be the next. This one is kind of a unique preference, and it'll be up to you, to be honest. So that's what we have there. And then I also just wanted to like sort of recommend like gear settings for her as well. I have mixed just because it increases the HP. So going boots and the dress is going to give her all the HP potentials, and then the angel can give her extra HP stats. Now, if you go full pink priest, which I do not have, those have extra skill abilities. You have cure, which just allows you to heal an ally for 10%, or you also have the cleanse, which whenever she makes a basic or active attack, removes debuffs from your allied team. If you have it max 3, it removes 3 debuffs. And that can be marks, say damage marks like the other debuffs, and control status markers on your team. So removing 3 of those every time she just makes any kind of action in the round is very, very important, especially in the speed build. She's going ahead and able to remove energy devouring marks or equilibrium marks from Nephilim. It's just incredible. Her utility is just very high, and you can go those 2 main routes, but then have all sorts of special abilities going on with her at the same time. Now, something I did want to point out as well, and this just comes out with Izanami, is if you're playing with an Izanami on the team with Vivian, something we've realized watching some of the battles with how the interaction of the totem and Izanami shields work is that when an ally that has a debuff is protected by a shield and an enemy hits that ally, they are hitting the shield and not technically hitting the girl. So the totem that removes debuffs from your ally won't remove the debuff based on this active skill from the Moonlight because they are protected by the shield. And the shield is being hit, I should say, not the girl. So that makes it an interesting interaction. You may have seen it with Fenrir as well. If Fenrir is protected by Izanami shield, she doesn't get hit and it doesn't proc the block ability to go off. We had to sort of reach out to the GM and get that clarified because we thought that was not supposed to happen, but they confirmed that it was intended. IH doesn't do this, but that's just something to look out for. Should have included that part in the Izanami review, but I had to mention it here because Izanami is a very important piece to these type of Vivian sustain teams. So that's just something to look out for when looking at the interactions during a battle. In PvE, I don't really see Vivian being taken there. In some tests, if you're fighting enemies that have a lot of debuffs, you could make it in. In Sanctuary, just because the boss sometimes hits very hard, she can send a whole bunch of damage through that link to that boss. But I don't really see her being used there outside of doing some minor healing for the team in those modes. Mainly U1 damage dealers, and Vivian just isn't one of those unless it's like in a player versus player environment. So there's not much to see for her there in PvE. You can take her in, she's going to do healing, she'll keep her team clean, but we're not always going to expect very high numbers from her when fighting bosses. Unless it's like Sanctuary. So I just wanted to put that note in there as well. So I'm going to have some awesome clips going off in this video. I hope you enjoy them as well. This is what I have for Vivian in the video. So of course, if you have any experiences, any interesting, unique loadouts that you've seen or that you are personally using, drop those in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But that's all we're going to have for today, folks. I really appreciate you dropping by and watching the video. Happy gaming.
さて、今度はどんな冒険が待っているのでしょう。踊りなさい。お星様、どうか私を導いてください。邪魔だ。死ねー。問答無用。カオス殲滅。お星様、どうか私を導いてください。問答無用。カオス殲滅。お星様、どうか私を導いてください。邪魔だ。死ねー。私の歌声で踊りなさい。問答無用。カオス殲滅。問答無用。カオス殲滅。邪魔だ。死ねー。